Hey guys, PKscreams here from King Beats, and I'm here with...
Brendan Murphy, Counterparts.
Counterparts,
unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I am here.
So your new album was just released.
Yep.
You're not you anymore.
Yep.
How has it been received this past week?
Great, honestly. Like one thing that I'm noticing about this record as opposed to other ones is the fact that normally when we put out a record, there's like it takes a while. You know what I mean? Like it takes a minute to catch. Whereas with this one, it's kind of instantly. Like the day it leaked, the day the record came out, like everybody was instantly just like, "This is sick." Album of the year, Counterparts best record of all. You know what I mean? All this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, it's nice. You know what I mean? Because we're so used to putting out records, and then kids are like, "Yeah, it's cool, but I don't know if it's as good as the last one." And then a year later, they're like, "Actually, it's the best." I'm like, I know that, but
Okay, so your first EP was released in 2008.
let's
Let's say about 10 years.
Yep.
How do you feel like the band has changed except for a few of the lineup changes? How's the dynamic worked?
I think that just like being a band for that long, like you sort of, you know what I mean? Like you sort of learn like when it comes to all aspects, like writing. You know, obviously our writing style changes up a little bit, not much, but you know, it's very more calculated and more thought out now than it was back then. Back then we were like, yeah, we'll just do whatever. But you know, like the writing changes and matures, like the people in the band actually mature, you know what I mean? Like the dynamic. And I think the member changes also have a lot to deal with that. Because, you know, we've had so many changes and stuff like that, and like when people are all kind of on their way out of the band, they, you know what I mean? Like tensions get a little high and stuff, and then people don't really get along as well as they normally would. So, you know, I think that the member changes do play into the fact that everybody is a little bit happier now because you don't have, you know, and not to their fault. Like if they don't want to play music for a living, they shouldn't. But you know, when people start to, you know, they're like on their way out, like a lot of people are like, whatever, I don't care, kind of thing, and it's just like we don't really have time for that anymore. You know, like we have to just do this band 100% full until it's dead. So, but yeah, I think that we've pretty much grown. I think we've grown. All of our fans have grown with us. You know what I mean? The kids that were listening to the band back when I was 18 and like, you know, like now and they were like 15, 16, like now I'm 26 and they're only a couple years behind me. So we're all sort of maturing and growing as the band progresses, and it's really cool.
Speaking of that, what would you consider the most challenging album that was written?
I think honestly, I want to say the new one, but it wasn't really that hard. Like it's a lot of people thought that it was going to be this like crazy task, like how are they going to top the last record, like what are they going to do, and we just kind of approached it like how we've approached every other record, which is just like we're just going to write, and then we're going to do pre-production and make sure the songs are sick, and then we're going to record them, and hopefully it sticks and people will care. You know, I think that like hardest, and not even in like a negative sense, like what was the most different record we've done was definitely Hell and Home, because it was the first time working with Will Putney. Since then, you know, we've done 3 records with him. I've worked with him with End. You know, so it's like we've come to know what to expect. But when we were first doing it, like we were so green to the idea. We were like, what do you mean we're gonna like do pre-production? Like what's pre-production? You know what I mean? Like we didn't know what any of that was. You know, and it was a pretty like quick, like bust your ass kind of pace with Will, and we just hadn't expected that because the last records were just, yeah, whatever, just we'll just record it. That's the song, yeah, we'll just record it. So, you know what I mean? When you go from that to actually like planning a record, and it's like this meticulous thing, it definitely threw us for a loop. But now it's second nature. Now we go in and we're like, yeah, we already know what we got to do. So yeah, it's cool.
So this is kind of a fun question. If you were to rearrange the order of releases of your albums, would you?
Not really, I don't think. I think they all kind of, I think they all like show like a bit of a growth, and they sort of like reflect the band. I mean, if I could pick anything, like I really wish Hell and Home was our first record. I wish that the earlier stuff was just kind of EPs and under the radar stuff, because it feels like we've been a band for so long. It feels like, you know, when people are asked like, how many records do you have out? And I'm like, 5. They're like, what? Like, what do you mean 5? I'm like, yeah, we've been doing this since I was 16, you know what I mean? But it's like, I would have loved to our first thing right off the bat be Hell and Home, because I think that was the first time we were like a concise, concentrated version of Counterparts, whereas the earlier releases are a little bit more sporadic. But But like I said, they serve their purpose, and the kids that like the band, they've been growing with the band, so it's it all makes sense to me. I think I would leave it the way it is. I'm not trying to like butterfly effect the situation by any means, but that's cool.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned your fans grow with you, and you've mentioned interviews, and I quote, "Yeah, I remember writing for Currents Will Carry Us and wondering if people are gonna get bummed out because my lyrics are positive. Then I realized that I can't lie and say something I don't mean."
For sure.
Do you
Absolutely.
still feel this is true? Like, do you feel you gain more fans because you're being more honest, or
Yeah,
do you feel,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that a big reason why people gravitate towards our band more so than others is the honesty factor. Like we don't try to like be different people on stage and off, and I don't want my like I have like a Counterparts persona, and then there's like Brendan Murphy. Like it's all just one, and I think that a reason why people connect with us so well is just through the honesty. You know what I mean? And we just we play what we want to play, and there's no gimmick. We're not like a gimmicky band at all. We just get up there and do our thing and get off, and but I think that that's sort of what it like opens it up a little bit more for people. Like people will sort of realize like, yo, they're just like me, but you know what I mean? But like I'm no different. Like that guy's 26, I'm 26. We're the same person. He just happens to do this for a living, and I do something else. And I think that that's what forms like more of a bond between a fan and the band itself. So yeah, I definitely honesty is the best part. Like that's the most important part about being in a band. I think like there's bands that they are not fully honest, and they go and they're successful, and it's like, yo, whatever works for you, feel free. Like I'm not going to talk down on them, but for us it's just way easier not having to have this second persona and lie. You know what I mean? Like we just like how I am on stage. Like I address the crowd the same way I address my friends. Like, what up, you dumbasses? Like, what's good? Like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's very simple. Like there's no snapping into a role. It's just, oh yeah, I guess I just got to go and scream now.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny. But.
So you've mentioned in an interview with Shane Told on his podcast, Lead Singer Syndrome.
Of course. Yep.
About the whole MySpace area. Do you think if MySpace was still around today that it would have the same effect that Facebook does?
I think. I mean, honestly, I think it'd be more like MySpace was such a thing for me in high school. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like that's how I met. Like I went to a school where I didn't know a lot of people in high school. All my friends went to public school. My parents are not religious, but the Catholic school was like walking distance from my house. So I was like, whatever, I'll just say I'm Catholic. I'll just go. I don't care. I'll take religion class. Who gives a shit? But so I started going there, and I didn't know too many people. But I think it was like the first like Civvies Day, like dress down day or whatever, when you didn't have to wear your uniform. I had a from first to last shirt on. So then I met someone with an Under Oath shirt, and then I met all these other people. You know what I mean? Like, and we were bonding over that style of music, and then MySpace was like you would meet so many people, and you would hear about shows and bands. Like that's that like. MySpace is the OG like Spotify related artists, like that stuff, you know what I mean? Because you would go and you'd be like, I love this band, and then you would go to their top 8 on MySpace, and it would be all their friends that are also sick, and you'd be like, yo, that's tight, like I'm gonna check that band out, like they must be boys, like they're in their top 4, I gotta go listen to them. So I think that if MySpace was around today, it would still be I like to think it would still be very similar, whereas Facebook has sort of like a weird like old people closet racist kind of vibe now, you know what I mean? Like a Farmville, like hey, join this group of 100 pictures of my baby shower, like that kind of stuff. Whereas MySpace was it was like its own culture, and it was so sick. Like I miss those days a lot. I met a lot of like one of my best friends who's actually on this tour as like a goof. He's selling merch for Gideon. They hit us up being like, yo, do you know anybody that can sell merch for us? I was like, yeah, bring my friend Kenny, who's my like closest friend that I met like through MySpace and all that stuff. So it's like, it's like years later, the website is still has an effect on me. It's really cool. But I miss that site more than anything. Shout out to Tom.
Just let me say this isn't done. Okay, say Verona Records, so Shane's label, if it was still more active, would you continue to release records with him, or were you happy moving on to Victory and now Nuclear Blast?
We're Pure Noise.
Pure Noise, sorry,
first. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
Come back in. But yeah, I think Verona. I think when Shane set out to do Verona, I don't think he was like, I'm making an indie, like I'm trying to be the next Victory, or I'm trying to be the next, whatever other big label was around at the time. I don't think he was trying to do that. I think like Verona's Purpose was sort of like a stepping stone. It was like, you know, he was using, and like it's one of the coolest things ever to like, you know, and I love Shane for this, and like Shane, like most of Silverstein, all those guys are like a big reason why we're doing anything today, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that like, you know, I think Shane was like, I've been successful with Silverstein, like I've been making money, I've been, you know, I'm doing well, so now I want to go and find all the other bands that need that little push and they need a bit of help, and I'm going to be the one to do it. So, you know, I mean, it would be cool, like putting stuff out with Shane, and especially because you know he's like one of my friends, right? Like, but at the same time, you know, when we moved on to Victory, it was like, you know, Victory obviously had a bit more of a push, and it was a more broad audience and stuff like that, and there was a lot more room to grow than Verona. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that Verona was bad. Like, Verona served its purpose, and, you know, we got out and our record was released Canada-wide and stuff, and it's like that's what like kind of lit a fire under us and made us go forward. But, you know, also at the same time, like Shane was in Silverstein, still very, very busy, like still very much an active band. So if I were him, I wouldn't be like, oh, I just came home from like a month-long tour, like I have 3 days off, like I'm gonna go like work on releases. I'd be like, hell no, like this is too much work. Like I put out records as a hobby, you know what I mean? So but yeah, like, you know, then moving to Victory, it was a, like I said, the audience was more broad and we could appeal to a wider audience, but with, you know, but then it was like that lack of, that's not my friend. Like, my friend doesn't own the label. You know what I mean? It's like an actual label owner. I can't text him in the middle of the night and ask him questions. But what we've worked out now with Pure Noise is we have the best of both worlds. Like, we have a very, very wide audience, and then also I have a close friend like Jake who I can just call and just ask him something, and he's not like, yo, I only work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, man. Like, leave me alone. It's the weekend. Like, he's, you know, it's like he's my friend. So yeah. He is my friend. He's my dog. So
everyone's, yeah, okay. If you could change one thing about the Canadian music scene, what would it be?
That's tough. It's a very tough question. Honestly, I just wish there were, like, you know, when we were growing up and going to shows, the one thing that stuck out to me is that every show was so like intensely attended. You know what I mean? Like when we were playing, you know, I would go to shows in Hamilton and Burlington and Oshawa and all these shows and stuff like that, and like there would be 400 people turning up to see like a local band. You know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, this band from here is just headlining, and everyone was like, well, there's nothing else to do, so I'm going to go to the show. And the draws were so insane, and I think that, you know, to go back to the MySpace thing, like that was just sort of like, that was a culture and it was its own era that existed for a little while. And then as time went on, that became less and less the case. You know, I think I would love to have it go back to that, you know, like I would love to, you know, like Hamilton, like I can't speak for Calgary, but I mean like Hamilton, where we're from, obviously, like, you know, there were, like back in the day, like the early mid 2000s, it would be like, you know, bands would play Toronto and then they would come play Hamilton, like even though it's not that far out of the way, but they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna book an off day show and go to the underground because I hear shows are crazy there, and it'd be like, oh, you know, My Chemical Romance is playing in Toronto at some huge venue, but then they're going to turn around and play the Underground in Hamilton, or like Converge and Dillinger Escape Plan playing Hamilton. Like the Used, like they play Toronto with, it's like Under Oath, the Used, Alexis on Fire, like that tour hit Toronto, and then Hamilton was the next day. Like the shows would sell out instantly, and it was like, it was such a thing, and I think that that's the one thing that we have to like figure out how to bring it back to that, because that was when I think, you know, I always say like if we put out Prophets like a couple years earlier, we would have rode that wave and it would have been way easier, but figures, nothing's easy for us. So, you know what I mean? We got the bad luck, so whatever.
Is there a song you perform live that you don't necessarily enjoy, but kind of do it for the fans?
I think like, I mean, there's not really any that I don't enjoy. Like, I mean, especially like if the crowd's into it and like the fans are having fun, like that's the most important part of the show. But I mean, you know, whenever we pull out like an older like deep cut off like Prophets or something, personally, I'm just like, I don't know how you guys like this. Like, I don't know how, given all of our material, how you could go back to Prophets and be like, no, this is good. It's like, no, hell no. Like, we started getting good at Hell and Home and Onward, but then we play it and everybody in the room freaks out, and it's like, all right, whatever.
Makes sense,
Who cares? Who cares what I like or don't like, and who cares? Like, we're literally doing it for the people that come to the shows. So, and that's sort of like, you know, as much as we are kind of a band that does our own thing, and we don't really worry too much about what people are going to think and how people are going to react. But at the same time, if we know that, you know, oh, like, we're going to do this song and the crowd's going to lose it, we're not going to, like, purposely be like, no, that's stupid. It's like, no, hell no, let's just give them what they want, and like as a little Christmas present wrapped up, and then we'll do our own thing after that, and it works out well. You know, we walk like a very thin line of like doing 100% what we want all the time, and also keeping the fans happy. And I think that as long as we like stay in the middle of that, our band will continue to be like pretty successful. So.
Okay, so you mentioned in other interviews that your set list depends on where you play and the lineup of bands.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are coming back through Canada with Architects and Stick to Your Guns.
Yeah,
Should fans expect more of an older kind of style record with like the heavier stuff, or do you want to kind of like have some more catchier songs in there as well?
I think that tour will be a perfect. I mean, okay, so like You're Not You has been out for a week. We're kind of, like, that's our next North American tour, you know what I mean? So it's in February and March, so it's kind of a ways away. So I think that because of that, and because we're not doing any North American stuff for the next couple months, the record will have like even more time to simmer, and I think people will be more excited about hearing new songs live. So I for that set list, like, I would expect a heavy amount of new stuff, like You're Not You specific stuff. But at the same time, like, we're also not going to be like, no, we're not playing Witness or Stranger or Choke or anything like that, because it's like, yo, we're not dumb. Like, those are the songs everybody goes off. So it's like, okay, we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, to not play like Disconnect or Stranger or like something like that would just be stupid. So like, well, there will always be the older staples in the set. But yeah, I think on that tour, like, it, you know, it is our crowd, but like it's majority our crowd, but there are going to be a lot of people that probably don't know us too well, and they're more used to like an Architect Stick to Your Guns vibe. So I think that when they hear the catchier stuff, they may go, okay, you know what, that band was actually sick. Then they go home and listen to all the records, and then they may go, oh, this is cool, but they actually like have cooler songs as well. You know, like, I actually prefer the songs off Hell and Home or Tragedy to the new stuff, which is fine by me. So I think that, you know, whatever kind of gets people hooked is sort of, that's what you want, you know?
If you could bring anyone together for a band lineup, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would just join the 1975. If they would just let me like play something in the band, like if like Maddie just wanted to sing 100% and they would let me play guitar, that would be ideal, because they're like my favorite band of all time. So that would be so sick. I don't know if I would play well, but I am better at guitar than I am at singing, so I will do that. And that's not saying much, because I don't think I'm a very good singer. But screaming, sure, whatever. But singing is very hard. That's definitely hard to record. But no, I would just hope that the 1975 lets me join. If not, maybe they need a tour manager, and they can hit me up, and I'll just do that for free. My pay will be watching them every night. So. Okay, well, there are some stupid questions, but anything else you want to add? I got nothing else. No, I mean, go Trojans. Am I right? We're at Saints, so there you go. Yeah, you know what it is. We out here, we hiding in the wooden horses. We're planning a sneak attack. You already know. Okay, well, that was Counterparts Interview, and all the links will be somewhere.